everybody, and welcome to another episode of IGN's News, Games, and More. It's our week daily live show where we talk about all of those things, all the stuff going on in the world of gaming and entertainment. It's been a big week. We got consoles coming out. I'm Max Scoville, and I'm joined by my good friends Ben Watts, Bob Marshall, and Matt Kim. And we're here to talk about all sorts of cool stuff. This is like, I feel like the most bizarre kind of grab bag snack mix news kind of day. Let's get things started. This is the Xbox Series X came out yesterday, and people have been doing some very silly things with it and creating sort of hoax videos, which, you know, admittedly IGN initially picked up. They're like, it appears that there's vapor coming out of the Xbox. People thought that there was smoke coming out of it. It turns out people were blowing, you know, cigarette, like vape. What do you call, what is it? Vape vapor?
It's vape.
Vape.
Yeah.
Clouds.
Vape smoke.
Vape clouds. There we go.
Yeah.
They were vaping clouds into the intake, and it was shooting it out the top, and then they were kind of cropping the video so that it looked like it was just emitting smoke, which it wasn't. And then somebody else put up a video or a photo where it looked like a ping pong ball was levitating above it, which, again, that's like seeing a UFO photo in 2020. It's like, give us, you know, full, like, give us video. This is weird. And then somebody else put like a feather on top, and clearly it doesn't output that much air. But yeah, I mean, it must be one hell of a launch lineup if people are resorting to just doing weird Xbox pranks. Matt, you do a lot of, you are on top of news at IGN. Tell us about the sort of, what was this like?
Yeah.
Covering this?
So just clear up, we did not write a news story this morning where we were like, the Xbox is emitting smoke. We gave it a good hard look. We reached out to Xbox like, hey, is this a known problem? And then a couple hours later, the Mythbusters of the internet came out and like, hey, it's not smoke, it's vape clouds. And I remember in the morning meeting, someone we work with was like, yeah, some cool kids were doing vape tricks with the Xbox, and there's no such thing as cool kids doing vape tricks. So you know, that was, but yeah, it's I think, I don't know, maybe if Halo Infinite came out, we wouldn't have to resort to these kind of things, but here we are.
So yeah, so I love this. Xbox actually had to put up a message on their official account that just says, I can't believe we have to say this, but please do not blow vape smoke into your Xbox Series X. I don't know. I love it. It's hilarious. I honestly wish that it did push out enough air that you could float a ping pong ball on top of it. That sounds awesome. I'm stupid. So I immediately was like, this must be real. This is great. And I texted to my friends. They're like, they didn't even respond. They're just like, let's leave this man alone. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very obviously not real. Like, that's totally just like a picture.
It looks real to me.
Yeah. You guys know how they did that, the levitating ping pong thing? It's held up by like a paper clip that's kind of been molded into like a little stand that they just balanced a ping pong ball on top of, which is way easier than how I thought they doctored it, which was just like drop a ping pong ball and catch it at the moment that it bounces up, is kind of how I thought they doctored it. But
I assume they just taken a ping pong ball in Photoshop and just very simply pasted it right there.
See, that's even easier. I feel like
I know Photoshop. I'm good at Photoshop. I could have made this picture and I still was like, wowzers, that sure is a lot of air coming out of that video game console. I was like, this makes me really want one.
In 2020, we want magic to exist, so we are willing to believe this stuff, no matter what.
I was honestly hoping that they would, like, obviously, like, this generation is, you know, clearly taking some cues from gaming PCs, and I was hoping that they would do some of like the weird, like, water cooled, like, color changing LEDs, but it seems like they just kind of do normal colored LED stuff. Nothing too wild.
I feel like for the sake of like newsiness, we should clarify that there have been some like day one problems that people have been reporting with the Series X, like legitimate problems, in that like some TV firmwares aren't updated yet, so they're not compatible with the Series X just yet. I think they're pushing out firmware updates because everything's connected to the internet now. Also, Xbox Live was down temporarily on day one, and so a bunch of people just could not do setup for like 4 hours. So those are real problems that we've heard about, but so far no smoke, fires, or levitating ping pong balls.
No, I mean, that's kind of goes with the territory of a new console. Like, there's always going to be weird growing pains, and that's, you know, one of the thrills of being an early adopter is you get to be there front row and center for like weird, unexpected stuff that is probably less fun than playing video games. All right, so moving on. Let's see. We talked about the Xbox stuff in terms of actual news, sort of, kind of. Elden Ring, like, just before we get anyone too excited, there's no real Elden Ring news. There's nothing like too groundbreaking here, but anytime anything happens involving Elden Ring that isn't just people writing fan fiction on the Elden Ring subreddit, which is totally a thing, we decided to report on it because people really want to know about Elden Ring, most of us included. This is, of course, the next upcoming FromSoft title from the Hidetaka Miyazaki and also George R.R. Martin. So it's very exciting. Head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, chimed in and says that he's played quite a bit of Elden Ring, and he calls it clearly the most ambitious game that Miyazaki has ever made. And that's literally all that's all we have. But I mean, what this tells us that it's in a playable state, which is exciting, and that it's, I don't know, what do we make of this?
It's
real.
I
think so.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. I mean, I think my initial reaction to this was, I know the news dropped a couple days ago that Xbox is looking to acquire some more Japanese studios. So I was wondering if this was, when I first heard this and saw it was coming from none other than Phil Spencer, it felt to me like perhaps this is foreshadowing of, maybe From Software, something could happen with From Software in the future. That's immediately where my mind went, just because there's been so much ever since, about a month out from the X-Men launch, there's been so much news of acquisitions. Obviously, the Bethesda acquisition being the biggest one. When I first heard this, that was immediately where my mind went. Why is this coming up now? Why are we talking about Elden Ring now? Why is Phil Spencer getting to be the first one to play it? So I'm I don't know. My eyebrows were both very raised when I heard this.
Right. My concern is when somebody gives you kind of the review of being very ambitious, that's not necessarily a positive thing. I mean, let's be very clear. Bob is my boss. And if I was sitting in a meeting with Bob and he said, you've been very ambitious lately, I'd be like, please don't fire me, Bob.
And the answer would be yes.
Okay.
No, that's a valid point. We've seen those very long tail game development cycles, like Cyberpunk, for instance. That is an ambitious game. That is a massive undertaking. And it was 8.5 years between announcement and its release. And that's still kind of counting there. Elden Ring was revealed at E3 2019. It was on Microsoft's big E3 showcase. So we know that it's coming to Xbox, some Xbox, and also PC. But there's no word on it coming to Sony. So, I mean, this could not very likely, but very possibly be a Microsoft console exclusive. I mean, we saw that with Bloodborne. That Sony has. I think FromSoft is good at kind of they pick and choose who's publishing what. Bandai Namco obviously puts a lot of stuff on cross-platform, but they buddied up with Activision for Sekiro, and Sony published Bloodborne, so it'll be. And then obviously Demon's Souls that's not theirs, I guess. That's a FromSoft game, but it's Sony. I don't know. But it's Blue Point who's making it. So that's a whole thing. But we're gonna be playing Demon's Souls very soon. But also I'm already sort of it's that meme of the couple walking down the street and looking at the other lady. It's that, but with FromSoft games where it's we're getting effectively a new, newish. It's new to me. I never played Demon's Souls. It's that's cool, and I should be excited about that. But I'm oh man, I want to get a Series X so I can play Elden Ring. But that, that's a smart thing of Phil Spencer to bring up, to be oh, we just dropped a new console, and oh, by the way, I've been playing this game that everyone's dying to play. But that's all the news we have on Elden Ring. On the subject of upcoming video games where unspeakable horrors jump out and kick your ass, Resident Evil Village had some new gameplay shown off in the strangest place. Sony put out a promotional video featuring tennis pro Naomi Osaka, who is, I guess, a gamer, and she talks a little bit about how she games, and it's, she's hanging out outside by a snack bowl, and she plays a little bit of Spider-Man and talks about the DualSense controller, and then she goes, I'm not really one for horror. Anyway, here's Resident Evil 8, a game we haven't seen much of, and then she proceeds to be sort of I haven't really played any Resident Evil, so everyone's why would you reveal this here? Kind of an odd place, but Matt, what do you make of this?
I'm a big fan of Naomi Osaka as a tennis player, is what I make of that.
What about Resident Evil? You like horror and stuff.
Yeah, I like Resident Evil. I am still wigging out over how the early leaks of how it's gonna, take place in a more supernatural environment with werewolves and ghosts all turned out to be true. Like I'm still recovering from that. But yeah, that's coming out this year, next year.
That's coming out early next year. That's
Next year, okay.
I think it's like I think spring next year, something like that. Early. I mean, Capcom has been dropping Resident Evil stuff pretty early on.
Well, I
around
look
that time.
forward to LeBron showing it off in December. So
That'll be exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, are you a Resident Evil guy? Is this a blip on your radar?
I'm with Matt. I love Naomi Osaka as a tennis player. I got to see her play against Coco Gauff.
You guys make me feel like a bad guy here for pointing out that it's weird to have a tennis player showing up a brand new survival horror game. I'm just like, okay, so full disclosure,
she's number one in the world, Max.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if she was playing like a tennis game, I'd be like, oh, this makes sense. But like to be like, she's like, I don't really like horror anyway. Here's me running around on a roof fighting werewolves and like collecting herbs.
It was funny watching her play it too, because in the ad, she's just like kind of very nonchalantly playing it, and then suddenly freaked out at a bunch of points. She's just like, I don't know. Whoa. I don't know. Like it was. I mean, so I guess it's scary. I mean, she says like, I think she even says in the commercial like, oh, I would recommend it. Like, if you're a fan of horror games, I recommend this. And it's just like, well, you just earlier said you weren't a fan of horror games, so I don't know if I trust like your opinion in the category. That said, I mean, it seemed like she had fun. It was a very weird way of experiencing, I guess, Resident Evil Village. But I should also mention that early on, once the Resident Evil trailer dropped, the social team put the Bugsnax theme song over it too earlier this year. So no matter what, I think any way you want to experience Resident Evil Village, like there are multiple weird ways to experience it, through the number one tennis player in the world, through our horrible social media accounts, which Ben and I run and lovingly distribute. So I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge Resident Evil fan, but like I guess like, who are the big horror game sports people right now? It does.
Why sports? Really why sports at all? Like, why do you need to have this? This is totally a thing. Like, we deal with it here and there on IGN, where there's like some sponsorship, something or other, where they're like, we have an athlete and we want to do something with the athlete, and they play games, but like they're famous because they play another game, which is sports, and it's like it's always this kind of weird like, let's just align these things, and it's it always takes a little bit of sort of like how do you shape, like, I mean, it's also, they just recently they announced that there's like a baseball player in Assassin's Creed Valhalla who's just like a random NPC.
Cody Bellinger.
He does baseball stuff in the Viking game, which is, again, strange. It's a strange move. Ben, what about you? Are how big of a fan of Naomi Osaka are you?
Right, yeah. Well, somewhere there is a Venn diagram of people who like Naomi Osaka who also like the things she doesn't, because that is who they're pitching this to. They're like,
it's actually serving in tennis. Pitching is baseball. That's a different one.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm on Valhalla still.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm very excited for both Resident Evil and Valhalla. But I mean, the gameplay looked fun and looked good, and I'm very interested to play in that supernatural world. But it's really weird way to show this off. There's really no reason for them to do it unless they were having her like just run through a bunch of really games quickly. But it was like a long period of her not enjoying playing the game. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it should like give her a different. I don't know. We got to see Resident Evil 8 gameplay, so that's cool. I hope they make a whole like Resident Evil tennis game. I think that would be wild if they just made it like a tennis game where you're just playing as like Tyrant and like Mr. X and it's you're in like the tennis, the net is just barbed wire, and there's I think that would be funny. But I mean,
sold.
Capcom has made worse Resident Evil spin-offs. Let's be real.
True.
So going down this weird list of just strange tidbit news, apparently there was a real Matt, do you want to tell us about this? This is so stupid.
Which one is it? What are we on?
The Baby Yoda thing.
Yeah. So the most recent episode of The Mandalorian featured Baby Yoda being cute and adorable or whatever, but there was also like a guest character, an alien woman who was like, these are my eggs, and these are the last remaining eggs of my species, and if they die, my line ends, right? Essentially being like, oh man, don't harm these eggs, right? I was really invested. But in this episode, spoilers. I'm sorry for people who may not have Disney Plus or don't watch The Mandalorian. I'm just gonna go ahead anyways. Baby Yoda eats like 5 of these eggs during the episode. It's really messed up. And people were like me, had like a, hey, Baby Yoda, that's villain shit, man. Don't do that. And now Lucasfilms executives have to be like, hey, man, Baby Yoda, he's cute, you love him. He's not being a villain at all. They're trying to like justify him doing extinction level events.
I mean, that was a running gag in the first season of Baby Yoda like shoving that frog in his mouth. He kept like eating live animals and like doing weird like, you know, carnivorous child stuff. That was like a running theme. So it it adds up.
Yeah, but when the alien person's like, these are seriously like, if these eggs are gone, it's all over for me and my family line. And
yeah,
I was talking with my roommate about this, and really, like, it's partly Baby Yoda's fault, but also Mando, just a bad dad. Like, all he did was like, hey man, cut it out, right? But like nothing beyond that. If I knew everything that they knew, I probably would have been stricter. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
And what did you make of this?
Well, one, I'm totally spoiled. Haven't seen this episode yet, so
sorry, man.
that's okay. That's just the
purview of
way
the
things
job.
go sometimes. But I mean, characters are complex. They're not good and evil. You can have areas of gray here, and clearly, Baby Yoda is going through some things. Hunger, for one. You got to eat something. And if you haven't been given the context that this is like a species-saving kind of pod of eggs, I'm assuming. I'm picturing a pod, just like a nice like pod of ball. Is that how it works? I don't know. I haven't seen it, but that's what I'm picturing. And of course, he's gonna take a nibble if they smell good. They probably did smell good.
I don't really know why eggs would smell good. Like I think eggs are delicious, but like they also, I don't know. There's like egg salad is like a stinky sandwich food. That's not a good one.
Well, I mean, to each their own. I mean,
Fair.
I enjoy the smell of eggs in the morning, but I mean, I don't know. They are being cooked, so you're right there. Did he cook them? I don't think he did.
No.
I think it's stupid that I think it'd be stupid that anyone has to come out and like make any kind of comment on a creative decision. I think that's ridiculous. Why have to? He's not a villain. He's just a character.
I don't know who was actually mad about this. I imagine it was like 4 people, but it was Phil Szostak, who's creative art manager at Lucasfilm, said, for the record, Chapter 10 of The Mandalorian makes it clear that the frog lady's eggs are unfertilized like the chicken eggs many of us enjoy. But obviously, chickens aren't sentient beings, and the child eating the eggs is intentionally disturbing for comedic effect. And you know what they say about jokes if you have to explain them. Yeah, I don't know. That's if chickens talked and stuff, that I don't know, I probably wouldn't be so hot on eating chicken eggs, you know.
True. I have no real I don't think anyone's out here to be on the hey, Baby Yoda is a bad boy train.
I think he's a little rat.
Yeah.
I think it makes him cute. I think it makes him really cute. Like, I mean, I think the thing that people are trying to like reconcile is like, is Baby Yoda as cute as he was before he committed a minor genocide? And that is all in the eye of the viewer, in my mind.
So we're
take it or leave it.
There's a lot of nuance here. Real gray zone.
People on YouTube are pointing out that YouTube is not working very well. So I should probably have the Twitch chat open too, which I imagine is working okay. But oh well.
Which is weird because YouTube seems to be working fine for me, but
who knows? Anyway, speaking of TV shows based on science fiction things, so if you're watching this on YouTube and you can hear me, I'm sorry. And if you're not, then carry on. Anyway, speaking of science fiction TV shows and multi-million-dollar franchises, they're making a Halo TV show on Showtime, apparently. I kind of forgot about that, but they recently announced that they have recast the actress playing Cortana, and they're going to be bringing in Jen Taylor for the role, who you'll know Taylor from her role as the Cortana in the mainline Halo games, which is a kind of a cool solution there. Apparently, let's see, what's her name? Where do I have the name here somewhere? I think Michelle McAlone. I don't know her name. She was supposed to be cast as Cortana, but also Cortana's creator, Dr. Catherine Halsey. But then due to scheduling conflicts from COVID, she was unable to complete her work as Cortana. So basically they got the original Cortana to come in and cover for her, which is that's a pretty neat solution. I think they managed to almost kind of, spin what would have been clever casting or just something out of Prometheus into like just a very, easy solution there. Are any of you particularly passionate about Halo lore? Mm-hmm. No,
I think the casting's good. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's always good when the original voice actor or actor can come back and kind of reprise that for, a TV series of Halo. It's very exciting. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and still probably not until the end of next year, I would assume. But it's very cool. I'm down.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I used to think Jennifer Hale was the voice of Cortana for the longest time until yesterday when I found out about the news. And I looked it up, and it turns out that my misconception stemmed from a faulty top 10 list. That was like top 10 voice actors you didn't know voice things. It's my cat in the background. I don't know if you can see them. But someone mistakenly put down Jennifer Hale as the voice of Cortana, and like that just stayed with me since 2009 when I read it.
I don't know. I think if you were to guess like who voiced a female character in a video game put out between 2005 and 2015, you'd have pretty good odds just guessing Jennifer Hale.
I'm so sorry. I have to let my cat out. She's upset that she's stuck in this room with me.
All right.
Hey, buddy.
And Natasha McElhone. She's known for. She's in Truman Show, I guess. Oh, that lady. Yeah, I know her. I don't know what is she from? Truman Show, Ronin. She's got one of those faces that you've like totally seen her in a bunch of things, but I didn't know her name off the top of my head or how to pronounce it. But okay, well there you go. Yeah. So on the subject of video game adaptations, I don't know. I feel like the Halo experience is like that's first and foremost a game, and people who are into that get it from the games, and they also obviously have like novels and comics and stuff. And they've done they did like Forward Until Dawn. They've done like Halo like CGI films. I just don't know like how they're going to pull off a live action TV show that doesn't feel under budget or doesn't like manages to kind of capture that action on that scale, unless they're going for something much more sort of small scale and deep cut.
Also, like, to be fair, we all know TV networks and how they operate. Like Showtime is not the top tier network, right? Like, no offense. Sorry, Showtime.
Oof.
My second cat would like to be let out now.
How many cats do you have?
What is happening?
Just leave the door open,
buddy.
Wait, you should check on your third cat too, just real quick.
Yeah, just let all the cats out.
I would honestly be so amused if you just kept getting up every 2 minutes like a different cat.
It's just the two cats. They don't normally hang out with me in this room, but for some reason today they're like, we're just gonna sleep in Matt's room while he works, so I just let them in here. And like I closed the door so my roommate's stuff doesn't like bleed in when I'm recording the show, so they were just kind of stuck in here with me. I just thought that they would sleep through the whole thing, but I guess they wanted to leave. So
no, as soon as you started bad mouthing Showtime, they're like, we're getting out of here.
We gotta get out of here.
I hope that whenever we stop doing the remote quarantine things and everyone stops working out of their own house, I hope that we have TV shows where people just randomly have pets on like the set with them. Like if they were just in the middle of like Wheel of Fortune and like Pat Sajak is like, oh, hold on, I got to let my dog out. And he's just like got like a Great Dane with him or something. That would be lovely. Okay. So on the subject of video game adaptations that we may not have the most expertise on the deep lore of, they are making a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It's in the hands of Jason Blum and Blumhouse, who's behind all sorts of great recent horror. But apparently, the project is still in active development. But he admits that the Blumhouse team haven't quite figured it out in an interview they did with Inverse. And he says the story is a big. I'm sorry, I can't read this with a straight face. The story is a big challenge. Five Nights at Freddy should have been easier because there are books. There's a lot of lore and storytelling. For a video game, I think it has more storytelling than almost any other. But still, the story goes down so many rabbit holes. I don't know if that was like a joke about the furry animal people. It goes down so many different directions. It's big. Choosing which part to tell the first time out of the gate and how to tell it. It's been tricky. Five Nights at Freddy's is the one where like the Chuck E. Cheese animals come to life.
Yeah,
right?
it's that one.
I guess I would tell Jason Blum to play more video games, but
Yeah, not to be like the snarky gamers, but like that's weird.
yeah.
Leave me alone. Stop. No.
I feel like the story would be make 5 really scary looking animatronics and make them like haunt you at a abandoned Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, I would say don't overthink it. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just maybe make a fun movie that has scary robot puppets that do. And I know there are Five Nights at Freddy's books and there are hardcore Five Nights at Freddy's fans, but you know, baby steps. You got to kind of work your way up to that. It's about the animals jump out and it's scary. Like it's I don't know.
And it's dark, and I think honestly, I think like the thing that you can play into is like so many Chuck E. Cheeses have like gone out of business in COVID. So like these places, like these creepy places with like dark, animatronics, like they exist right now. Like there's like this is like a very real thing that could happen. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. Like sort of. You could like this is like there are actual abandoned Chuck E. Cheeses where horrifying things could happen after dark. Like this is something like lean into the abandonedness of like mall culture generally, and you can do it. I actually just recently saw a screener for a Blumhouse movie called Freaky, which is like Freaky Friday but with a serial killer, and Vince Vaughn's in it, and it's great. And I think what makes it really great is they just didn't overthink it. It's just like dumb fun, and I think. Yeah, I think it can be easy to be like, well, we're tackling like this beloved franchise that all these people like really care deeply about. But I mean, like, you would never adapt any video game movies if that's the way you truly felt about it. Like, I feel like what made the Sonic movie work is you didn't go too far into the Sonic the Hedgehog lore. They were just like, there's a fast hedgehog and there's Robotnik, And like, I think with Five Nights at Freddy's, you're like exactly what you guys were saying. Like, there's an animatronic like fake Chuck E. Cheese band, and it's spooky.
I mean,
Right,
out
of all the video games we could have adapted, what is it? I don't even know the name. Five Nights at Freddy is not the one that's the hardest to adapt. His quote, I mean, he quotes himself as saying, "I think it has more storytelling than almost any other." It has the most storytelling out of any video game. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy, that is chock full of just storytelling.
It's 5 whole nights of storytelling. There's different, and then they kept doing sequels. They have upwards a month of storytelling that happens in those games.
And then they're going to do a series of movies, so each night gets its own movie. I mean, this is going to be a saga.
I think it could be a streaming series. I think it could be a whole season, each episode every night. It'd be good. This is such I love this, but also Chris Columbus is still attached to direct, who you may know from a bunch of really good movies like Gremlins or Young Sherlock Holmes, and then also other movies like the first 2 Harry Potter movies and Pixels. So he's like, he can go completely either way. Like I love some of his movies, and he's basically like a kind of Spielberg understudy. And he's like, if you made a sort of Gremlins tone movie that was Five Nights at Freddy's, I would absolutely see that. Like if you're like, oh, it's like children's horror Chuck E. Cheese, like count me in. That sounds awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He made Pixels, the movie where like Tyrion Lannister and Adam Sandler and Paul Blart had to fight giant like Minecraft art, basically.
Yeah, he made that romantic comedy, The Hottie and the Naughty. Anyone? Nope.
Did he make that?
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh no.
Because I was like, this guy directed Home Alone. This is going to be good.
Getting the director of Home Alone to direct Five Nights at Freddy sounds genius, right? Like,
right.
They're spiritual cousins. But also the fact that they're struggling with the story on this is not kind of confidence inducing. It's scary puppets, 5 nights.
I hope that they put that box quote on like the next Five Nights at Freddy's game, and it's like some of the best storytelling in all of gaming. Jason Blum, like that'd be pretty sneaky. So obviously we are on the sort of cusp of a brand new console generation, and a lot of people still have PlayStation 4s and are probably going to be holding on to them for the immediate future, because a lot of PS4 games are still coming out. The Sony executive said that it's going to take about 3 years for the full generational transition from PS4 to PS5, which is sort of not unprecedented, but also that's good news for anybody who couldn't get a PS5 right now, because it means that, you can still get plenty of mileage out of your last gen system. And insisted, let's see, it was Global Product Strategy and Management, Hideaki Nishino, insisted that forward compatibility is important and that we'll be seeing cross-generational content that supports both PS4 and PS5 for a few years yet. The current assumption is that the transition from PS4 to PS5 will take about 3 years, and added, we have more than 100 million PS4 customers, but we'll do our best to move to PS5 as soon as possible. But yeah, like that's it. They'd be leaving a stupid amount of money on the table if they were just like, we're only making PS5 games right now. Yeah, I mean, how many of us have PS5s on the way? Like, show of hands. So there we go. I mean, they're off to a good start, but at the same time, like, it's gonna take a minute before they have the install base of the PlayStation 4.
I think the other thing that I've noticed too is just talking to friends, like, I think working at IGN, we can be like, well, we need this right now. Like, I'm not going to watch other people play Miles Morales and not play Miles Morales myself. Like, what sort of torture is that? But so many other people I've talked to, like just regular, like, pretty frequent gamers have been like, you know what, I'm just going to wait. I do I think for a lot of people too, with like coming off of COVID, it's been, hard times just, monetarily, or you expected to cough up $500 for a brand new system. And there are a lot, there are some great games, yeah, but like maybe it's not necessarily the franchises or series you want. So I think a lot of people that I've talked to where I'm like, oh, can you just not wait to play Miles Morales? Like, you know what? Like, honestly, like I can wait. Like, I can wait a year. I can wait 2 years. Like, other people I've talked to are not in as much of a hurry as me and my fellow IGN employees, I guess.
I think this is an interesting quote, especially considering that Sony's own CEO or PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan was previously quoted saying that we believe in generations. That was kind of one of their big selling points for why you needed a new console and why backwards compatibility is not at the forefront of their strategy as it is for Xbox. Is that they were like, this is a clean break, this is new technology. There are things that we are building that you can only experience on PS5. And I don't think that new quote is necessarily walking that line back, but I think they are de-emphasizing this early talking point when they were talking about it in March and July, when they're like, hey, actually, if you want PS5 quality stuff, you got to get a PS5. But now they're talking about this like middle ground, this transitional period, which I think is interesting. I'm not here to say whether or not the early strategy was working or not, but it is definitely a weird compare and contrast versus what stuff like Ryan said earlier in the year.
Ben, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, look, I think it's tough when they went all in on saying, we do believe in generations. I mean, I think that's still true. This transition, though, that just seems like such a business thing. Of course, when can they get the consoles into people's hands? Yeah, it's going to take a while. I think, obviously Miles helps them push all the consoles out and get all, like, nobody can walk into a store tomorrow and get them. So, I mean, there might be some available online. So good luck to anyone who's still trying to get one. But I guess they're looking at that. Okay, so what's going to be our next launch that's really going to push all the consoles out? The people, because the excitement and the hype, that'll die off. And people will kind of be like, okay, so now I've waited past launch. So now I guess I'll just keep waiting. So I guess God of War will really kick it into a gear again. And, when we start getting those custom faceplates for the side, then let's see what happens.
That's the big selling point.
Then it takes off.
Yeah, we don't know much about God of War Ragnarok, or if that's going to be a definitive sequel to God of War, or if it's going to be kind of a Miles Morales sort of mid, I don't know, installation or whatever.
Expand-alone.
Yeah, expand-alone.
That's what they've been calling it.
Trademark.
But yeah, no, like, I mean, you look at the tail end of the PS2, which was like the last time Sony had one of those consoles that was just like just stupidly incredibly good selling. And some of the best games ever came out in the tail end of the PS2 because developers had the feel for how to make stuff for it, and there was enough of an audience there that people got their hands on it, and there was it was lucrative. So if we have more of that makes sense. But the big thing that's different between this generation and what we saw with like the PS 1, 2, and 3 is that back then it was this dependency on physical media, and if you're pressing something to a disc, there's something kind of static about it, and I think that reinforces generations to a certain degree, to be like, this piece of hardware is the only way you can play this thing, especially if you're, I don't know, introducing a DVD drive or a Blu-ray drive. But this time around, it's like it's an iterative upgrade. It's basically improving a bunch of the stuff that was already there. And I think you look at what Microsoft is doing with smart delivery, where it's you know, there's gonna be that little check mark that says like, you know, play it best on Series X or whatever. But I would imagine they're doing a fairly similar thing where, you know, some games will really have like the full next gen oomph, but for the most part, it's like last gen is still alive and kicking. It's
Yeah.
doing just fine.
In fact, they're taking away drives this year.
Let's see. Do we have anything else? Do you guys want to talk about Zack Snyder's plan for Justice League 2? We don't have to. We can talk.
Oh
we can
no, I
mention-
do.
You want to talk about it? You want to talk about Justice League 2?
Let's go.
Okay.
I the other week when I was on the show and we were talking about the Snyder cut, I said there's no way he's going into this thinking that that's it. He's preparing for whatever's coming next, and he doesn't want to leave the DC world. I think that's made it pretty clear from his continued work on the Snyder cut. So this was a given. I'm kind of surprised. I guess it came out now, but I guess he's just foreshadowing. He's like, guys, I'm telling you, this is what I want to do. You're going to see the Snyder cut, and I'm going to change all of your minds. You're going to be all in. You're going to be asking for the second, what is it now, a mini series on HBO that's going to be Justice League 2. Yeah, that's it was 100% always going to happen. I think he also was showing off on his stream that he did. It was just on his phone, the Martian Manhunter, which he's just introducing new characters now.
All right. I like to think that he walked into WB headquarters with all the board members and quoted from one of his very famous movies, The Watchmen. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
So anyway, to sort of, he hasn't confirmed Justice League 2. He hasn't said that this is officially happening, but he appeared recently on a League of Mayhem live stream with the Nerd Queens to discuss Justice League, which he's still working on. We still haven't seen the Snyder Cut, but that's coming out in 4 parts on HBO Max in 2021, if you missed that news. But over the course of the conversation, he said that he already knows how the story would develop beyond the series for a potential Justice League 2. What do I say to the world about, you know, what happens when Darkseid comes to Earth? Then what? You know, is that a thing? And I think, listen, the truth is that, did I write and did I have and conceive a complete, do I know what happens when Darkseid? Yes, I do know what happens. To say and to speculate about this, that would be exciting. I think that's a fine. So basically, he has designs for what Justice League 2 could be, but there's no indication that that's a thing that might even happen. It's such a weird concept because, like, I mean, there were plans for what the DCEU was going to be, and then those kind of fell apart. And now we're sort of seeing these different corners of the DC movies kind of doing their own thing, which I think that's a way, like, I think that's where DC is really like head over heels better than Marvel. Like they have characters that exist in the same universe, but they can have like drastically tonally different books. And you even look at how, you know, you look at some of the best Batman stories ever written, and it's like The Dark Knight Returns and Year One and Long Halloween are all like, they're all Batman, but it's just different, you know, different variations in different universes. And it seems like DC's kind of embracing that this time around. And if the Snyderverse is going to be a thing, that rules. But like, I don't know if they're going to give it the same amount of leeway as when they were trying to do like a whole, you know, Justice League, get the gang together type of thing. Also, my issue with Snyder is that this guy is like, he really teases the hell out of everything. Like, he just loves to show stuff off in advance. Like the fact that he revealed Aquaman in like a Twitter photo before you revealed Aquaman in the movie that revealed Aquaman. It was just like, that would have been so exciting to see that in the movie. But instead he's like, here's a photo of Jason Momoa that I photoshopped Unite the Seven over it. Or like, here are set photos. We haven't finished designing the thing. Or here's concept art for this thing. And it's like, just finish the thing and the thing will be exciting on its own. But I don't know. People like that whole, you know, they like the leaked stuff and the exclusive reveal, and you know, it's got that I guess that sort of authentic, you know, viral quality to it. Anyway, that's about all the news we have for today that I managed to pull together for this show. But there will be more news, I think. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me and hanging out.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Can I just make one correction? Before I'd said Christopher Columbus. No, that can't be right. Chris Columbus. He directed Hottie and Naughty. He didn't. He
You
directed
did.
I Love You, Beth Cooper. I'm sorry. You can
Oh.
understand how I could get confused.
That's also weird though.
Oh.
I know. I'm sorry. I'll go. It's fine.
Okay.
Oh God, he just left.
Yeah. All right.
I'm just
Yeah.
sorry. I have to go
Is that coming
rent
back?
I Love
Oh,
You,
no,
Beth
no, no.
Cooper to just make sure it was.
And when I say that Christopher
as bad as
Nolan
I-
directed The Girl Next Door, I also want to retract that. I was wrong about that. That was not Christopher Nolan.
But still a masterpiece of a movie. So that's okay.
All right. We had a good time. Thank you to everyone who watched, especially who watched on YouTube. If you were able to do so, apologies. That's not our fault. I blame YouTube for that. I blame YouTube for a lot of things, so I'm just going to keep it up with that. And thank you all for hanging out. And huge thanks to John Borba for doing everything behind the scenes. And we will see you later tomorrow, same time, or next week, or whenever. We'll be around. Good night.